A beautiful girl with black hair heads towards her parents sitting in the kitchen. They smile affectionately at her. Before she reaches the door a few steps away, the girl suddenly falls. Her mother jumps up, her face contorted with fright. She rushes to her daughter, grabs her by her shoulders, and starts to shake her, trying to revive her. But the girl does not respond. Her pale face and weak pulse show that her condition is critical. Her father leans in towards her chest. The girl is barely alive, but breathing. At one point, her lips open. She wants to say something. Her father leans lower, trying to understand what the girl is saying. A look of bewilderment appears on his face. The man hears the name of one of his older children, but that child died a long time ago. Unable to bear it, the mother loudly calls her daughter by name, Lurancy Vennum, and she suddenly comes to her senses. She doesn't seem to understand what has happened and tries to realize where she is. Finally, the girl comes around and she asks her parents what happened. They explain that she suddenly fainted and didn't regain consciousness for a long time. When her mother asks her what she remembers last, Lurancy only frowns. All that sticks out in her mind is her walking to the kitchen. Her parents ask why she called out the name of the eldest child, but Lurancy can't answer the question. Gradually, everyone calms down and life goes back to normal. The family lives in the American town of Watseka, Illinois, and it's the year 1877. Lurancy and her parents are almost past it when the mysterious attack repeats itself. The girl suddenly loses consciousness, but this time does not regain consciousness for several hours. She continuously repeats the names of both of the couple's eldest dead children and mentions the name of some places. When she does regain consciousness, Lurancy reports that this time she has remembered everything. She has communicated with the dead, her parents' children, and in this deep trance, she has also visited places she has never been to in reality. The parents don't know what to do. They're worried and hope that's the end of it. Physically, their daughter looks perfectly healthy, but has her mind gone blank. Their fears are well-founded. Lurancy increasingly falls into trances and then tells them how she communicates with the spirits of dead people. There is nothing left for the parents to do but seek medical attention. They postpone this moment because they know that their daughter will be declared insane and sent to a home for the insane. In such places, mad people are mistreated and are rarely released. But there is no other way, so doctors come to their house to examine Lurancy. They conclude that the girl's health is indeed excellent, but her mind is troubled, and she should go to a home for the mentally ill. There she'll get help, and then perhaps return to her parents, cured and happy. The man and woman decide to take their advice. The mother helps her pack her things. Her heart is breaking at the impending separation, and word of what has happened is already spreading through the town. But the parents don't have time to send their daughter to a home for the insane. One day, there is a knock at the door. A strange man is standing on the doorstep. The visitor removes his hat and introduces himself. Asa Roth. He is here because of his daughter, Mary Roth, who died more than 10 years ago. The fact is that her condition was very similar to what is now happening to Lurancy. The parents look at their daughter with consternation. They believe and disbelieve Asa Roth at the same time. The visitor calmly continues his story. He says that if everything is as he suggests, Lurancy could communicate in her trance with Mary. The girl looks uncertainly at her parents. She is convinced that she is indeed talking to spirits, but at the same time, she realizes that it frightens those around her. Finally, she closes her eyes and nods slightly in agreement. The next time she falls into a trance, her parents realize she's talking with the voice of a stranger. While unconscious, Lurancy mentions the name Mary Roth, and when she comes to, she declares that she is Asa Roth's daughter. The man looks at her with both horror and hope. Has his daughter returned from the other world? He asks the girl questions, and Lurancy answers them as his daughter Mary would. The parents stare at their daughter in horror. It seems that she has indeed been possessed by the soul of a girl who died many years ago. Roth, on the other hand, becomes more and more animated. He talks to Lurancy and asks about things only his Mary could know. Incredibly, the girl knows all of Roth's family secrets. In the end, the man is convinced that his daughter is really in front of him, only in Lurancy's body. He offers to let the girl's parents let her stay with him. They are utterly lost, but agree to it. Her mother helps Lurancy carry the suitcases she has prepared to send her to the mental home. That same evening, Roth takes Lurancy back to his house. At his place, she continues to act like Mary. The girl recognizes the people in contact with Mary and the things she used to use. She knows where and what she is and acts like someone who has lived here for years. But the fainting continues, and during them, Lurancy speaks in other people's voices and does things that would frighten an untrained person. One day, she falls into a trance again, during which she announces that Mary's soul is about to leave her. After this, the fainting and trances will cease, and Lurancy will become herself. Hearing this, Asa Roth becomes sad. He doesn't want to part with his daughter, even if she's in another girl's body. He recalls how it all began. Mary started acting strangely when she was 3 years old. She had what's called a cataleptic seizure. She started speaking in other people's voices, which lasted for quite a long time. She frightened her parents the way Lurancy's frightened her parents. Asa has one particular memory. He is sitting in a chair and his daughter, now a teenager, comes up holding some thick book. He looks at her in amazement and helps her place the book on the table. Asked why she needs such a complicated book, and the girl replies that she will read it. But her father is even more surprised when she pulls out a handkerchief and asks him to blindfold her. After a moment, the man complies with her request and sinks back into his chair. Mary, on the other hand, opens the book and reads it out loud, as if she had done it many times before. The man is stunned and disbelieving at first. He thinks it's some kind of joke. Maybe one of the older children has read a passage to her and the girl has memorized it. Asa checks it out, opens the other pages, and reads them. To his amazement, the girl calmly does so. The astonished father has no choice but to believe that his daughter can read blindfolded. Asa shakes his head, pushing this memory away, and returns to reality. He looks at Lurancy and sees Mary. His Mary ended up going to a home for the mentally ill many years ago, after all, and passed away. The poor girl lived only 19 years. Soon the thing Mary's spirit warned about happens. Lurancy comes to her senses, wholly healed. Her seizures cease, and she now feels as healthy and normal as her peers. Lurancy packs her things and returns them to her parents. They meet her on the doorstep. The girl throws herself into their arms and feels liberated. She is young and has a long and beautiful life ahead of her. Lurancy Vennum was the subject of interest from writer Troy Taylor. He spent years researching the facts of this mysterious and frightening story. The man has studied the records and visited the sites associated with the incident, which has gone down in history as the Wasika Wonder. He wrote a book about what happened to Lurancy Vennum, but it was up to each reader to decide for himself whether to believe it or not. Newspapers have also been found mentioning the Watsik miracle. Is Lurancy Vennum possessed by the spirit of Mary Rolfe, or is it all an original fabrication? But the story of Mary Rolfe, with which it all began, does make the blood run cold. The misfortunes described began with her before the little girl could even speak. She later began to have seizures, and only 5 grown men had to hold on to the fragile girl as she tried to escape from their grasp. She also often cut herself with knives, saying that she had high blood pressure in her head and that this was how she could get rid of it. Gradually, the girl started speaking in unfamiliar languages, which also sounded very frightening. Like Mary, Lurancy, when it all started, gave detailed descriptions of places she had never been to. According to some sources, her parents immediately refused to send their daughter to a home for the insane. And Asa Roth did not appear at their home alone, but with one of the psychics famous in society at the time. In their presence, the girl presented herself as various people, first as a young German woman, then a young boy. After the meeting, she said her name was Mary and asked to go home. Then she lived with Asa Roth for several months as Mary, and even visited her friends. 10 months after the first seizure, Lurancy healed as described in the story, and then lived a completely everyday life. Unlike others in the story, they believe that Lurancy was possessed. Under hypnosis, the girl confirmed this diagnosis. She also told him that several spirits wanted to speak through her, and one of them was the spirit of Mary Rolfe. Eventually, she gave this spirit consent. She stayed in Lurancy's body for about 4 months, and the girl did not recognize her parents, but she often gave seances of clairvoyance and made predictions. After 3.5 years, Lurancy was married. During her first childbirth, she claimed to be possessed by Mary Rolfe's spirit again to ease the pain. What do you think of this story? Do you believe in ghosts? Share your opinions in the comments, and don't forget to like the story if you liked it, and subscribe to our channel.